Welcome back. This is Gabi from Bluebonnet Crafters, and in this video I will talk a little bit about joining squares that were woven in the bias method on the Zoom Loom. And I won't let you down. We'll get you through this. You will see if you have joined the traditional squares that you weave on the Zoom Loom with the scalloped edges. You probably know that this is a little bit of a challenge. Weaving the or using the bias woven squares is like really absolutely a total piece of cake because the edges are straight, and I can show you how easy it actually is. But I will also show you how to join the bias woven squares with the traditionally in weave it style woven squares. So let's get started. All you need are your squares, of course, and a tapestry needle and some scissors. And I have woven up a few extra squares in contrasting colors, pretty much just to show you to make it a little bit more visible. And you can use, and for a real project you would be using the tails from the squares, but for demonstration purposes I'm using a contrast color here in a very bright and pretty red, so that you can actually see the stitches. All right, let's pretend we're ready to go. And I'll just zoom in a little bit. Grab any two squares, and again this is like we will do the joining of two bias woven squares first, and match up the corners of those two squares. And you can already see how the yarn turns here match up. What you do is just join, start in a corner, and again I'm using contrasting yarn, and I usually like to secure with one stitch in a corner, and then just match up the other corner, straighten it out, and then just happily go through the outermost turns. And this is like what I do is 1, 2, and skip 1, because it's bias, it's a little bit more stretchy, so I skip a stitch once in a while. 1, 2, skip, 1, 2, skip, 1, 2, skip, all the way to the other corner. Just a few things. First of all, just go around one thread, okay? Some people have a tendency, they kind of just poke like a little bit deeper, thinking that this holds up more. It actually doesn't. You know, going around one thread is perfectly fine and sufficient. And if you don't do that, if you go through a little bit deeper, it actually puckers up the fabric. 1, 2, skip, 1 and 2. Here we are at the corner, and slightly I go through the corner twice. Okay, so only go around one thread of the squares that you want to join. The other thing is, you can probably see it here, I'm not really pulling the thread tight. If you pull it too tight, it may pucker. If it's too loosely, you will not join, and it will take just a little bit practice. So with medium tension, the idea is that you kind of copy the tension of the fabric. Okay, so this is done. Let's see, so this is we can just put it apart like this. This is what it looks like on the wrong side, and when we turn it over, this is what it looks like on the right side. And you see here a few things. Let me zoom in. So this is the right side, and you see with the right tension that the stitches are almost, they copy the fabric, like the fabric turns. So you can almost not see them. Of course now you see them because I'm using a contrasting color, but if you would imagine these were green, this would be green, you could barely see the seam. All right. And the other thing is that you see here, it's kind of the 1 2 skip, 1 2 skip, 1 2 skip, which blends in just nicely. If you were to do every stitch, it would kind of bulk up the seam a little bit, and you don't want that. Okay, does that make sense? All right, let's zoom out here, and then I will show you how to join this should be enough, how to join a bias woven square with a weave it style woven square. Again, if you you know, for a project you would probably use up these ends, and it's nice because you have plenty of ends in matching colors, like the blue would blend in or the green would blend in, and if you then, you know, add other squares here, you still have enough threads ends to always have a matching color. So for demonstration purposes, again, we will use a contrasting color, and I'm taking the, you see here the weave it style woven is the way it comes off the loom, and really for the bias weaves you can really just turn them any way you want. It really totally absolutely doesn't matter. You know, left, right, up, down. Oh yeah, another thing here is, here you see the starting knot from the loop. You can undo that if you want to, like this, but you don't have to, because the knot is so tiny it will just blend in perfectly with the side. I haven't mentioned that yet, so anyway, now I do. All right. So let's just go ahead and join these two sides. And I'm holding them like this, starting at a corner. And I'm just securing the corner here with an extra stitch, and in this case I have the weave it style woven on top, and what I wanted to, the key to it is really to stitch through each of the loops of the weave it style scallops, and then whatever matches from the bias will be just fine. So that's the rule. That's what we're going to do. Start off the one corner of this matching squares, match up the other corner of the matching squares, and then just wiggle it a little bit to make it match. And then just start sewing. Okay, so go still around about one thread of each one, and then scallop, and then here's a little gap. Don't bother, you know, just go through the next scallop. And I don't even look what I have on the back from the bias weave, because the reason for that is the bias weave is so even, and there are plenty of turns, that it will just settle perfectly fine. So with the scallops, they have scallops and gaps, and we want to have that as even as possible. That's why I make sure that I fetch every scallop, and I just ignore everything in between. And here we are at the corner. And if you have more, you can just leave it like that. That's what will do right now. And let's take a look. Same rules apply. This is the wrong side. And here you see the right side. And you see the key here is that it really, you fetch all, and there are no gaps in between. The stitches blend in with the fabric. But now you can see here, so this is like, here the threads go horizontally and vertically, and it's joined to a square where the threads go in diagonal directions. Okay, so I've shown you the one with a weave it style in the front. Let's add two more, and this time we have the bias in the front, and the weave it style in the back. I think I have enough yarn here. I should have cut a new strand, but that's okay. So pick them up, and now you see that you have the weave it style ones in the back, and we do the same sewing. I just continue here from the previous two. So corner, I do an extra corner, match up the other corner, wiggle everything else in place, and then you do the same thing here. Don't worry about the bias, make sure that you fetch each of the scallop turns, and that comes out to about what you did before. So this is like 2 stitches and skip one on the front, not always, and again it doesn't matter. So I just make sure that I have the scallop turns. All taken care of. Tension, medium tension, yarn tension, so that it looks like the fabric. This is my last corner, so I made an extra stitch, and here we go. So this is the bias matched to a weave it style. The wrong side and the right side. So of course it looks very much like this one here, the other one. Except that while you were working with one, you had the weave it style in the front, and with the other one you had the bias in the front. So the key is just make sure that you always fetch the scallops, and then you see that you get a really smooth seam. And yeah, that's actually all there is to it, really. All right. I just want to show you one more thing. If you join just bias, the stretchability will continue. So this one is really nice, for example, for a blanket binding where you want the stretch. Okay. And then if you combine the weave it style and the bias, you actually get a quite interesting fabric that has some stretch but still bounces back into its shape. And you can use that for your projects. Let me just show you. Yeah, I will show you this one. This is a cowl that I made using Rowan felted tweed, and you can see here, this is where I used two different colors. The darker one is the weave it style, and the lighter one is the diagonal weave. And it just really, particularly for a cowl, it has such a great drape. I really like it. And you have this interlock effect where from you might know this from knitting, where you knit in different directions, and here we have woven in different directions, or actually we have put it together in different directions. So that's one thing, how you can use both square types together, play with colors. And last not least, if you really cool thing is if you start using variegated yarns. So here I used different yarn shades, but just be prepared that it goes really wild when you use variegated yarns with both weaving methods. This one is Karen Simply Soft Speckle, and so this is a yarn that has little speckles all the way along. If you weave it using the weave it style, it looks like this, and this it does that pattern automatically. If you use the same yarn and weave the bias style, you get this. So, and I hope you get that I get a big wow from you out of this one. Not that I did do much, I just used the same yarn with different weaving methods. But that's probably as good as it gets if you use speckled yarns with the two different weaving methods that I can show you, you know, what you get of it. And now just imagine you do the cowl with the same yarn, different weaving methods with the speckled yarns. Variegated yarns, some of them work, some of them don't. In the end, you have to sample for sure. But so this is the Karen Simply Soft Speckled. I think actually has the best effects, or play with colors, or well, the sky is the limit. All right, this concludes the introduction of bias weave on the Zoom Loom. I hope you enjoyed the show and I hope that you will try it out and that you will make a few projects with it. Thank you very much for listening and watching. Bye bye.